Hello, my name is Dan Gable, and I'm the professor of jazz history and big band ensembles here at Westfield State University. I'm a trombonist, published arranger, band leader, and I lead my own professional big band, Dan Gable and the Abletones. I've toured the world with the Glenn Miller Orchestra as well as many other ensembles, and I also serve as the president and CEO of the American Big Band Preservation Society, a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving, promoting, and performing this music with a focus on education. So I'm delighted to be here with you today to chat because I love jazz music and I'm passionate about inspiring others. So let's get started. Auditioning. Have you ever auditioned for something before? Maybe a school play, a band, or orchestra? Whether you've auditioned for something before or not, it can sometimes be a little nerve-wracking. That's okay because we have all been there. The Districts Festival is a great experience, but even just the process of auditioning for something in front of a large audience or a judge is a valuable skill. If you get nervous when you audition, here's your first Gable tip that I always remind my students. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I'm serious. Will the room explode? No. Will the ocean dry up and all the whales end up on the shore? No way. But everyone will be proud of you for trying your best, and just auditioning is in and of itself an accomplishment. Always just take a deep breath, or 5, and then play from your heart. Music is a beautiful thing. So let's take a look at some specifics to help you out. Preparing. First, make sure you have the right music. Here's your next Gable tip. You must have it printed. I got my copy right here. Now, iPads are great. Technology is fantastic. But having the paper in front of you, you can easily write on it, make quick notations. That is essential. If you haven't done that already, take a moment and do that right now. Next, be sure to download the track right from the website. After we work on the tune, you'll be ready to play along with this track, so just as you will in the actual audition. For now, we'll start with the song itself. Softly as in a morning sunrise. Now, that tune is what we call a jazz standard, meaning that it is a major part of jazz musicians' repertoire. It's worth learning this tune because it's often called on gigs, jam sessions, and it's just a great tune. In fact, you know what? I might even call it on my gig tonight. Sigmund Romberg wrote the melody, and the great Oscar Hammerstein II wrote the lyrics. You know that name? That's the same guy who wrote all those Broadway hits, Oklahoma, The Sound of Music. So why did I mention the lyricist? Well, in addition to learning any jazz standard, it's important to learn the entire thing. The melody, the chords, and the lyrics, when there are lyrics. In this case, the lyrics can definitely help you phrase the melody. The trumpet is one of the most lyric instruments. It can be similar to the human voice, or it can tear down a wall with its sound. Always sing the melody right through your horn. And I'm going to tell you an old story about Lester Young, who we call the president of the saxophone. Lester Young was playing a song one day on his tenor sax, but he abruptly stopped, and his friend looked at him and he said, "Prez, man, why'd you stop playing?" And Prez looked up, kind of forlorn with his horn. He said, "Man, I forgot the lyrics. I got to go learn them." So learn the lyrics. Now, learning the tune. For the audition, your first task is to play the head. That's what we call the melody. In order to really play it, my best advice to you is to learn the tune. What do I mean by that? Learning a song is not just memorizing it. To learn it, to get inside of it and get it in your own head so that you're able to perform it in your own way. Here are some tips so you can be able to do that. Step 1, sing the melody. Oh, I mean sing with your own voice. You can do this on a simple syllable like do, or loo. So here's an example. Grab your horn and let's just play the first measure of the song. Now sing that in whatever octave is comfortable for you. Loo, loo. And now the next measure. Loo, 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 loo. So by singing it, it really gets it inside of your head. Step 2 is to learn the form. What's form? Form is the structure of music and how it's organized. In jazz, this is essential. Most tunes are in 8-bar sections, 32 measures long total. So for the first section, after the introduction, let's call that A. Note that this section repeats, so it is A followed by another A. The next section, you'll hear that the melody changes, so check this out. Suddenly, we have new melodic material. This middle section is called the bridge, or letter B. Now, take a look. The final 8 bars are almost identical to the first section, right? So this is another A section. So like in poetry or prose, these letters help us organize the form. The form won't change. That's one of the rules of jazz. When we're playing the song, it will always follow the format of A, A, B, A. Can you think of another song that is A, A, B, A? One that comes to my mind is Take the A Train, or the holiday standard, Let It Snow. So the next time you're listening to a jazz standard or a song or really any type of music, see if you can identify the form. Step 3 is to sing and play the melody from memory. So now that you know the form, you know that you really actually only have to learn 16 measures of music. 8 measures in the first A section, repeated, 8 measures of the B section, and then the last A section. Once you've got that, you've got it. Put them all together, and the whole tune is memorized. So now play it and sing it without looking at the sheet music. So now that you've learned the melody, it's time to check out something called chord changes. Now, I know that some of you may have experience with changes, and others may really have never worked with these before. So if you're really unsure what these even are, that's okay. I'm going to encourage you to ask your teacher or private instructor to help you out. My comments here sort of assume a basic knowledge of chords. Just like the melody, it's important not just to memorize the chords, but to actually learn the changes of the tune. Changes is what we call them in the biz. You'll see that the AABA pattern is the same. The first thing I would recommend is writing out those changes over the melody, like this. So on your page, you've got the head written out, meaning just the melody note. Bottom section, you have the chord changes. So take a pen or pencil and write those changes over the melody, and you'll see how it all lines up. The act of writing out a melody or chord changes also helps you internalize them. So now, begin to notice some patterns. Look for the 2/5s. Check out when the tune returns home, which is in the key of D minor. Those moments in the melody are eventually, your improvisation can be landing spots. Most importantly, check out how different the bridge is. Suddenly we arrive at the relative major, in F major. And then the following chord change is D major. So these are important moments in your solo and in the melody to not just show where you are, but it's to show that you understand the harmonic structure of the tune. Think of those as guideposts. Now, building your solo. To start, just play a variation of the melody. Don't even think about the chords. Improvise the melody. Here, check this out. You know the melody, right? You've got it. You've got it internalized, and once you've got that, play around with it a little bit. So I'm sort of playing the melody, but I'm stating it in my own way, right? That's what I want you to do. Find a way that you can state the melody and kind of put your own spin on it. So, the example in the following page of the book shows a solo that works over the chord changes of the tune. It's sort of a jazz etude. Let's take a look at that. The first thing I would go through is mark the form on this. So let's check it out here. Beginning with letter A, 8 measures later, letter A, 8 measures later where it says swing, that's the bridge. 8 measures later where it says Latin, we'll talk about that in a moment. That's your last A section. A, B, A. That just helps us stay organized, always organized. That's the thing that doesn't change in jazz, right? Style. So the next cool thing about this tune that is it's often played as a Latin tune, meaning that the eighth notes are straight, still with a jazz feel, or swung, meaning that the eighth notes are swung. Now in this case, we actually have the A sections are both straight Latin feel, and then we go into the bridge, which is swung. So let's grab that play-along track and take a listen. This is the best way to hear that shift between styles. Now take a look at the eighth note runs, the pickup to the bridge. Those eighth notes should be swung. Effectively, the style changes a bar before it happens. So a bar before the bridge, it starts to swing. A bar before the last A section, it starts to be straight again. So on the playback, listen especially to the drummer because he's going to fill into each section to set it up. Working on going back and forth between straight and swung is a great exercise for you to work on. Now let's talk about your solo. Remember that if you struggle improvising, the best thing that you can do is play the melody, but in your own way, from your heart. Adding embellishments and lines to it, but make it your own. You can add elements from the written out solo here. Find a riff that you like and use it, modify it. Write your own. Finally, try to tell a story. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Come up with your own beginning. And I mean, write it out. What are you going to play when you start your solo? Then have a middle in mind. Where do you want it to go? At this point, you can consider things like range, velocity of notes, things like that. What else could you change? And then finally, where will you end it? Don't just peter off at the end and look down. Have an ending in mind. Here's your next Gable tip. Some of the greatest jazz musicians work out their solos. Yeah, it's definitely improvised, and yes, things can change from night to night, depending on the audience or whatever the situation is. But sometimes it's also very cool to work out some of these parts in advance. It's a good kept secret of the jazz business. So for you, my advice is to work out, and I mean write out the beginning of your solo, maybe other parts of it, and that will give you the confidence in the heat of the moment, whether it's for this audition or in a room or on stage in front of 1,000 people. You have some confidence on where you're going to begin and where you're going to end your improvisation. Now, the next part of the audition is everybody's favorite, scales. Scales are so essential, not just to jazz, but to the fundamentals of your horn. To become a better musician and improviser, scale practice is a must. And on an audition, man, they're just free points. There's no reason that you shouldn't get a perfect score on your scales. Use these every day as your warm-up. Combine them with your efforts. So if you want to work on something like range, play the scales in the upper register or the lower register. If you want to work on intonation, think about that. Articulation, vary the articulation. And remember the style shift on softly? So going between Latin and swing, try that on some of your scales. Take some runs with eighth notes, swing them, and on the way down, play them straight. Imagine a rhythm section in your head. There are many ways to make scale practice fun, but trust me, it's all beneficial. Sight reading. I like to say, reading at sight, it'll be all right. The one and only way to get better at sight reading, like most things in music, is just to do it. To add to your daily routine. Open up a book, pull out a big band chart at school or someplace, read it down, put it on your stand and just figure it out on your own. Scan the page for important things like key signature, patterns, form, roadmap, DS, repeats, things like that. Understanding the form is so important. It'll help you sight read. Working on reading is another great way to improve your all-around musicianship as well. Now, the day of the audition. The first thing you should do before any audition, or playing your horn, or playing a sport, or taking a test, or really anything, is to breathe. Breathe slowly, deeply, and deliberately. Breathe with intention. Take some time to do that. It may feel like a long time to you, but it's probably only about 5 seconds. So why not take 10 seconds? Next, drink plenty of water. You probably hear this all the time, but seriously, keeping yourself hydrated not only helps you play, but it helps your body in all of its various functions. And sleep. Don't ever overrate sleep. A well-rested, well-hydrated, well-prepared musician is an unstoppable force. Breathe, hydrate, sleep, and practice. So with that, it's your turn. It's your turn to practice. I sincerely hope that some of my Gable tips are helpful for you. You've chosen the trumpet. It's a regal and a fierce instrument. You and I stand on the shoulders of all the greats who came before us. Louis Armstrong. I mean, it's just so many great players. Dizzy Gillespie. Love your music. Love your instrument. I suspect that you already do. So I'm inviting to share your love. Good luck practicing, and we can't wait to see you here at Westfield State.